It was a crisp autumn morning in Chicago when life took an unexpected turn for Emily Parker. She had been working as a waitress at Maple and More, a busy downtown cafe where customers rushed in and out, the scent of roasted coffee and fresh muffins filling the air. Emily wasn't rich, but she loved her job. She was known for her warmth, the kind of kindness that brightened a gloomy morning. But that day, her kindness would cost her everything. The cafe door chimed as a tall man in a dark gray suit walked in, holding the hand of a little girl with curly brown hair. The girl's eyes darted around the noisy cafe, her small hands clinging tightly to her father's arm. She looked frightened by the crowd, the sounds, the clinking of cups, and the rush of people. The father looked concerned, bending down to whisper something, but the girl buried her face in his jacket, trembling. Emily noticed immediately. She had seen that expression before, the fear and confusion that often came with sensory overload. She approached quietly, crouched near the girl, and spoke in a gentle tone. "Hi sweetheart," she said softly. "Would you like to see my special quiet corner? It's calm and cozy." The little girl peeked up, curious but still scared. Emily smiled warmly and handed her a small cup of warm milk with foam hearts drawn on top. "You don't have to talk. Just breathe. You're safe here." The father watched, surprised. No one had ever handled his daughter, Ava, so kindly and so calmly before. She was on the autism spectrum, and every public outing was a struggle. Most people stared, judged, or whispered. But Emily had shown only patience and love. Soon, Ava was smiling faintly, tracing her finger over the foam hearts. The man, Michael Bennett, CEO of Bennett Industries, felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to thank Emily, but before he could, the cafe manager stormed out from behind the counter. "Emily," he barked. "What are you doing? You're supposed to be taking orders, not babysitting." Emily stood up quickly. "Sir," the little girl was overwhelmed. I don't care," he snapped. "You can't ignore customers to play therapist. Get back to work, or get out." The cafe grew silent. Michael looked up sharply. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Emily had only tried to help his daughter. "I'll handle this," Michael said firmly. "Do you know who I am?" The manager sneered. "I don't care who you are. She's an employee, and she's not doing her job." Michael's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, Emily shook her head slightly, signaling him to stop. "It's okay," she said quietly. "I understand. But it wasn't okay." Within minutes, the manager called her into the office and fired her on the spot for neglecting her duties. Emily walked out, trying to keep her composure, her hands trembling as she took off her apron. Michael followed her outside. "Wait," he said, catching up. "You didn't deserve that. What you did for my daughter meant everything to me." Emily forced a smile. "Thank you, sir. But kindness doesn't pay the bills. I'll find something else." He could see the exhaustion in her eyes, not just from the firing, but from a life that hadn't been easy. Her coat was old, her shoes worn, and her hands calloused from long hours. Still, she carried herself with quiet dignity. "Please," Michael said, taking out a business card. "I'm Michael Bennett. I'd like to offer you a job. I run Bennett Industries, and we could use someone with your heart and patience." Emily blinked in disbelief. "You mean, working for you?" "Yes," he said. "My company supports children with special needs. We're starting a new program to help families and schools. I think you'd be perfect." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why me? You don't even know me." He smiled softly. "Because you saw my daughter, not her condition. That tells me everything I need to know." Over the next few days, Emily's life began to change. She went from standing behind a cafe counter to walking through the marble halls of Bennett Industries. The office was bright, modern, and full of energy. Her role wasn't glamorous, she assisted with scheduling, events, and outreach, but it gave her purpose. And for the first time in a long while, she felt seen. Michael's daughter, Ava, often visited the office after school. Emily always kept a small art set for her, and together they'd draw colorful shapes and tell stories. Slowly, Ava began to open up, talking more, laughing more. The transformation was miraculous. One evening, after everyone had gone home, Michael stopped by Emily's desk. She was finishing up some reports when he said, "I wanted to thank you again. Ava's therapist says she's made more progress in the last month than in the past year." Emily smiled, touched. "She's a bright little girl. She just needed someone to understand her world. He nodded thoughtfully. You've given me something I couldn't buy with all my money, peace of mind. For a moment, they stood in silence. There was something unspoken between them, respect, gratitude, and maybe a quiet bond that neither expected. Months passed, and Emily became an important part of the company's community outreach team. Her genuine compassion drew people in. She organized charity events, led awareness campaigns for autism, and even started a mentorship program for parents who felt lost and unsupported. The story of how she was fired from a cafe for helping a child, and later hired by that child's father, spread quietly among employees. They admired her humility, while Michael found himself inspired by her every day. But life wasn't done testing her yet. One afternoon, Emily received a call. Her landlord was selling the building, and she had 30 days to move out. She didn't have savings yet. Everything she earned went toward bills and caring for her younger brother, who was still in high school. When Michael found out, he called her into his office. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked gently. "I didn't want to bother you," she replied. "You've already done so much." He leaned back, thinking, "Emily, you're not a burden. You're part of this family now." Then he handed her an envelope. "Consider this an advance and a small thank you for everything you've done." Inside was a check large enough to cover a deposit and a few months' rent. Emily's eyes widened. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "You earned it." That night, as she unpacked in her new apartment, she looked out the window and smiled for the first time in years. She finally felt safe, valued, and hopeful. Weeks later, during a company charity gala, Michael took the stage to speak. Cameras flashed as reporters waited. "Tonight," he said, "we celebrate the power of compassion, and one woman who reminded me that kindness is the greatest form of leadership." He motioned toward Emily, who stood near the stage, stunned. "She was once fired for helping my daughter. Now, she leads the very program that's changing lives across the city." The crowd erupted in applause. Emily's eyes filled with tears as Michael added, "The world doesn't need more bosses. It needs more people like her." After the event, Michael found her backstage. "You've changed this company," he said quietly. Emily smiled. "No, Mr. Bennett. You changed my life." He shook his head. "Maybe. But you reminded me why I started all this, to help people who care. You gave that dream a heartbeat again." As they stood together, the lights of the city shimmering behind them, Emily realized something profound. Sometimes life breaks you just enough to lead you where you're meant to be. She had lost her job, but found her calling. She had met a frightened little girl, and gained a family. And somewhere between kindness and courage, between loss and hope, two worlds had changed forever, all because one woman refused to stop caring, and one man decided to see her worth.